It was a dusty afternoon in the heart of the Wild West, where the sun blazed mercilessly upon the cracked earth and dry plains stretched endlessly. The air carried an eerie stillness, broken only by the faint creak of wooden doors swinging on rusted hinges and the distant call of hawks circling high above. In this desolate land, a small town named Blackwater sat nestled between barren hills and a crooked river that seemed to twist like the fate of its inhabitants. The townsfolk whispered about many things, but none more haunting than the tale of the girl locked in the cellar. It wasn't something they spoke of openly. Only when shadows grew long and lanterns flickered low did the story emerge from their lips. Some believed it to be mere legend, born out of fear and boredom in a place where life was as harsh as the desert winds. But others knew better. They had seen the evidence with their own eyes, heard the cries echoing through the night, felt the chill that ran down their spines whenever they ventured too close to the old homestead at the edge of town. That homestead belonged to Jeremiah Cade, a man whose name alone struck dread into the hearts of those who dared cross him. Tall and imposing, his face carved with lines deeper than canyon walls, Jeremiah ruled over his ranch with an iron fist. His hands bore the scars of countless battles, both physical and emotional, and his eyes held a coldness that no amount of whiskey could warm. He was feared, respected, and utterly unpredictable, a perfect storm waiting to unleash chaos upon anyone foolish enough to challenge him. But even Jeremiah had secrets buried deep within the foundation of his home, secrets so dark that they threatened to consume everything he had built. And little did anyone know, one of those secrets would soon come to light in the most unbelievable way imaginable. The day began innocently enough. Just another morning filled with the sounds of livestock stirring and boots crunching against gravel paths. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered like water boiling in a kettle. At dawn, Jeremiah's youngest son, Ethan, wandered toward the barn, his bare feet kicking up clouds of dust. He was no older than 12, his freckled face framed by unruly curls that stuck out every which way. Despite his age, Ethan carried himself with a quiet determination inherited from his father, though without the same cruel edge. As he reached the bucket to fetch water from the well, a sudden squeal pierced the air. Startled, Ethan dropped the bucket, sending ripples across the calm surface of the water. "What in tarnation?" he muttered under his breath, squinting toward the source of the noise. Following the sound, he found himself standing before the pig pen, where old Bessie, the family's prize sow, was pacing restlessly, her snout digging furiously into the dirt. "Bessie, what's got you all worked up?" Ethan asked, stepping closer. The pig stopped abruptly, turning her head toward him as if responding to his voice. There was something strange in her gaze, almost pleading, shaking off the odd sensation. Ethan leaned down to inspect what she had uncovered. To his surprise, there lay a piece of cloth, half buried in the soil, its edges frayed and stained with dirt. Curiosity gnawed at him as he pulled the fabric free. It was soft to the touch, unlike any material used for farming or everyday wear. This was finer, perhaps even silk. Ethan frowned, holding it up to the sunlight streaming through the gaps in the barn wall. Where had such a thing come from? And why was it hidden here, in the pig pen? Unbeknownst to Ethan, his discovery marked the beginning of a chain of events that would unravel not only the mysteries of Jeremiah Cade's past, but also reveal truths far stranger than anyone could have imagined. By midday, the heat had become oppressive, forcing most of the townsfolk indoors to escape the relentless sun. Inside the general store, Clara Bennett fanned herself with a newspaper, her brow furrowed as she read the latest headlines. She was a woman of few words but sharp instincts, her piercing blue eyes missing nothing. When Ethan burst through the door later that afternoon, clutching the mysterious piece of cloth, Clara immediately sensed that something was amiss. "What is it, boy?" she asked, setting aside the paper. Her tone was brisk, yet tinged with concern. Ethan hesitated, glancing around to ensure they were alone. Then, swallowing hard, he held out the fabric. "Miss Clara, I think you should see this." Clara took the cloth, examining it carefully. Her expression darkened as recognition dawned. "Where did you find this?" she demanded, her voice dropping to a whisper. "In the pig pen," Ethan replied softly. Old Bessie dug it up. Clara's fingers tightened around the fabric. "Come with me," she said firmly. "We need to talk to your pa." Ethan nodded reluctantly, sensing that whatever this was, it was bigger than either of them realized. Jeremiah Cade was not a man easily startled, but the sight of his son and Clara Bennett approaching his house with grave expression stirred unease within him. He stood on the porch, arms crossed, watching them ascend the steps. "What's going on?" he growled, his voice rough as sandpaper. Without preamble, Clara handed him the cloth. Jeremiah studied it silently, his jaw tightening. For a moment his composure faltered, revealing a glimpse of the turmoil brewing beneath his stoic exterior. "You know what this is," Clara stated plainly, "and I want answers." Jeremiah hesitated, then turned away, walking back inside the house. "Come in," he said gruffly. "If you must know, you'll hear it straight." The room was dim, lit only by the weak sunlight filtering through dusty windows. A thick layer of silence settled over them as Jeremiah paced, collecting his thoughts. Finally he spoke, his voice heavy with regret. "That cloth," he began, trailing off. "It belonged to my daughter." Clara gasped, while Ethan stared at his father in shock. "Your daughter?" Ethan repeated. "I thought we were all there was." Jeremiah shook his head slowly. "There was another. Her name was Lily. She disappeared years ago, right after her mother died." The revelation hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Clara exchanged a glance with Ethan, her mind racing with questions. "Disappeared?" she pressed gently. "Or taken?" Jeremiah refused to meet her gaze. Instead, he gestured toward the floor. "Go down to the cellar," he said quietly. "You'll understand once you see." The ladder leading to the cellar groaned under their weight as they descended into the gloom below. Cobwebs clung to the rafters, and the smell of damp wood and mildew filled the air. At first, the darkness seemed impenetrable, but as their eyes adjusted, they noticed something peculiar, a faint scratching sound emanating from the far corner. "It's coming from behind that wall," Clara whispered, pointing to a section of stone that appeared slightly displaced compared to the rest. Together, they pushed against the stones until they gave way, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, wrapped in chains and bound tightly to the floor, sat a figure so emaciated and frail that it barely resembled a human being. Wide, terrified eyes met theirs, filled with desperation and pain. "Oh my God!" Clara breathed, covering her mouth with her hand. "Who is she?" Before Jeremiah could answer, the girl managed to croak out a single word. "Help." Hours passed as the townsfolk gathered outside Jeremiah's home, murmuring amongst themselves. Word spread quickly about the girl found in the cellar, and soon the entire town was abuzz with speculation. Some claimed Jeremiah had kidnapped her. Others suggested she might be his long-lost daughter, Lily, somehow returned after all these years. Whatever the truth, one thing was certain. Jeremiah Cade's world was unraveling faster than he could mend it. Yet amidst the chaos, one detail remained unexplained. How had old Bessie known where to dig? As if answering their unspoken question, the pig suddenly appeared at the edge of the crowd, her muddy snout twitching as she gazed up at them with an uncanny intelligence in her eyes. Little did they know, old Bessie wasn't just any pig. Years earlier, Jeremiah had purchased her from a traveling salesman who swore the animal possessed an unusual gift, a connection to spirits unseen by mortal men. At the time, Jeremiah had dismissed it as nonsense, but now, faced with the impossible, he couldn't deny the truth. For some reason, old Bessie had sensed the presence of the girl in the cellar and acted accordingly, leading Ethan to the very spot where the key to unlocking Jeremiah's darkest secret lay buried. Whether by instinct or supernatural means, her actions defied explanation and left the people of Blackwater questioning whether there were forces at work beyond their understanding. In the end, justice prevailed. The girl, revealed to be a runaway named May who had sought refuge in Jeremiah's abandoned barn years prior, was freed and reunited with her family. Jeremiah, unable to bear the weight of sins, fled into the wilderness, leaving behind a legacy tarnished by greed and cruelty. As for old Bessie, she became a local legend, her story told and retold around campfires late into the night. Though no one could say for sure why she had done what she did, one thing was clear. Sometimes, even the simplest creatures can perform acts of heroism that leave humanity humbled. And so, under the vast, starlit sky of the Wild West, the tale of the girl locked in the cellar, and the pig that saved her, lived on, a reminder that hope can emerge in the darkest places, often in ways we least expect. The days that followed were anything but ordinary. The town of Blackwater buzzed with a mix of relief and unease, as though the air itself carried whispers of what had transpired. May's rescue was celebrated quietly, her frail body too weak to endure the jubilation that might have accompanied such an event in another time or place. Instead, she was taken to the care of Dr. Harlan, the town's only physician, whose hands trembled slightly as he examined her injuries. Each bruise, each scar told a story of survival against all odds, and yet there was still much left unsaid. Dr. Harlan worked tirelessly, ensuring May received the best care possible. He spoke little of his findings, choosing instead to let the townsfolk piece together their own conclusions about Jeremiah Cade's actions. But one night, after the sun had dipped below the horizon and the stars began to twinkle like scattered diamonds across the sky, Clara Bennett paid him a visit. Her knock on the door was soft, almost hesitant, as though she feared disturbing the fragile peace that now enveloped the town. When Dr. Harlan opened the door, he found Clara standing there, her expression unreadable. "May I come in?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Of course," Dr. Harlan replied, stepping aside to allow her entry. His office was small but neatly organized, with shelves lined with medical texts and jars containing various remedies. A faint scent of herbs lingered in the air, mingling with the cool evening breeze that drifted to the open window. Clara took a seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, finally, Clara broke the silence. "I need to know everything," she said, her voice firm despite the tremor that threatened to betray her emotions. "Everything about what happened to that poor girl." Dr. Harlan sighed, leaning back in his chair. "It's not easy to talk about," he admitted. "But if you truly wish to understand, I'll tell you what I've learned." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "From what I can gather, she must have been down there for years, perhaps even since Jeremiah first discovered her hiding in his barn. She was young then, maybe 10 or 11, and already malnourished. Somehow, she managed to survive by scavenging scraps from the kitchen trash and drinking rainwater that seeped through the cracks in the cellar walls." Clara winced at the image, her stomach churning with disgust and sorrow. Why didn't anyone notice? How could this go on for so long? "That's the hardest part, comprehend," Dr. Harlan continued. "Jeremiah kept her hidden well. The cellar entrance was locked, and the only way to access it was through the house. Even when neighbors came over, they never ventured beyond the main rooms. And Jeremiah, he was careful not to draw attention to himself, careful not to let anyone suspect what lay beneath his feet." Clara shook her head, unable to fathom the depth of Jeremiah's cruelty. But why keep her there at all? Dr. Harlan hesitated, his gaze dropping to the floor. "That's where things get complicated. From what May has managed to say, Jeremiah believed she brought bad luck to his family. After his wife died, he became convinced that her presence was a curse, a reminder of the life he'd lost. So, rather than turn her away or send her to an orphanage, he chose to imprison her, hoping to bury both her and his guilt deep within the earth." Tears welled in Clara's eyes as she processed the weight of his words. "And old Bessie, how did she know?" Dr. Harlan smiled faintly, though the sadness remained in his eyes. "That's the part that defies explanation. Some say pigs are more perceptive than we give them credit for, that they can sense things humans cannot. Others believe old Bessie was simply following an instinctual urge to uncover something buried. Whatever the reason, she acted when no one else dared, leading Ethan straight to the truth." Clara nodded slowly, her mind racing with possibilities. "Do you think Jeremiah will ever return?" she asked after a pause. Dr. Harlan shrugged. "If he does, I doubt he'll find much welcome here. This town won't forget what he's done, not any time soon. But perhaps in some twisted way, he's already paying for his sins out there in the wilderness. Alone, without a soul to speak to, forced to confront the ghosts of his past." His voice trailed off, leaving the room filled with the sound of crickets chirping outside. Clara sat silently for a moment longer, then rose to her feet. "Thank you," she said softly, for everything. As she stepped back into the night, the stars seemed brighter somehow, their light casting a gentle glow over the sleeping town. Despite the horrors that had unfolded, there was a sense of renewal in the air, a promise that even in the darkest times, hope could prevail. Weeks turned into months, and life in Blackwater began to settle into a new rhythm. May recovered slowly, her spirit proving stronger than the chains that had once bound her. She rarely spoke of her ordeal, choosing instead to focus on rebuilding her life. With the help of the townsfolk, she found work at the general store, her bright smile becoming a beacon of resilience for those who crossed her path. Old Bessie, meanwhile, became a beloved figure in the community. Children marveled at her intelligence, while adults marveled at her courage. Though she continued to live on the remnants of the Cade Ranch, now abandoned and overgrown, she was free to roam as she pleased, her loyalty undiminished despite the hardships she had endured. One evening, as the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, May stood by the riverbank, watching the water flow steadily toward the horizon. Beside her, old Bessie rooted contentedly in the dirt, her snout twitching with satisfaction. For the first time in years, May felt truly alive, as though the weight of the past had lifted just enough to allow her a glimpse of the future. She reached down, scratching old Bessie behind the ears. "You saved me," she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "And for that, I'll be forever grateful." The pig grunted softly, as though understanding the depth of her gratitude. Together they stood there, bathed in the fading light of day, their bond unspoken but undeniable. Farther upstream, the current carried with it fragments of history, pieces of wood, shards of glass, remnants of lives lived and lessons learned. And somewhere, buried deep within the sediment, lay secrets yet to be uncovered, waiting patiently for the day when they too would rise to the surface. Until then, the people of Blackwater moved forward, their hearts heavy with memories but buoyed by the knowledge that even in the most desolate places there exists a spark of light, a flicker of humanity that refuses to be extinguished. But then, just as the town began to heal, whispers returned, whispers of footsteps in the dead of night, of shadows moving where no one should tread. Some claimed to see Jeremiah's ghost wandering the outskirts of town, his face etched with despair, his hands reaching out as though seeking redemption. Others dismissed these tales as mere superstition, born of fear and imagination. Yet deep down, everyone knew the truth. Some stories refuse to end. They linger, haunting the edges of our consciousness, reminding us that the choices we make ripple outward, shaping not only our present but also our future. And so, under the vast, starlit sky of the Wild West, the tale of the girl locked in the cellar and the pig that saved her lived on, a testament to the enduring power of hope and the mysteries that bind us all. The months that followed brought a strange calm to Blackwater, as though the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next storm to break. May's recovery continued, her strength returning in small but steady increments. She formed a close bond with Clara Bennett, who became something of a surrogate mother figure, offering guidance and comfort whenever May needed it most. Together, they worked tirelessly to rebuild not only May's life, but also the trust that had been shattered within the community. Clara often found herself drawn to the old Cade Ranch, now overrun with weeds and vines that seemed determined to swallow its secrets whole. There was something about the place that called to her, a pull she couldn't quite explain. Perhaps it was curiosity, or perhaps it was a deeper need to understand what had driven Jeremiah Cade to such extremes. Whatever the reason, she felt compelled to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. One crisp autumn morning, Clara made her way to the ranch once more. The air was cool, carrying with it the scent of decaying leaves and damp earth. As she approached the crumbling homestead, she noticed something unusual, an indentation in the ground near the pig pen, as though something heavy had been dragged across it recently. Her brow furrowed in confusion. Could it be another clue, or was it merely coincidence? She knelt down, brushing away the loose dirt with her hands. Beneath the surface, she uncovered a piece of metal, rusted but still recognizable. It was part of a lock, its intricate design suggesting it had once secured something valuable or dangerous. Clara's heart raced as she realized the implications. If this lock had been buried here, what else might lie hidden beneath the soil? Her discovery did not go unnoticed. Word spread quickly among the townsfolk, and soon a small group gathered at the ranch, each person bringing their own theories and suspicions. Among them was Dr. Harlan, his expression grim as he examined the lock. "This looks familiar," he said, running his fingers over the corroded mechanism. "I've seen locks like these before in old mining operations. They were used to secure safes containing gold or other precious materials." "Gold?" someone whispered, disbelief evident in their voice. "You think Jeremiah was hiding treasure?" Dr. Harlan shrugged. "It's possible, but given what we know about him, I suspect there's more to it than just wealth." Clara nodded, her mind racing. "We should dig further. Maybe whatever Jeremiah buried here will answer some of our questions." Without hesitation, the group set to work, armed with shovels and picks borrowed from the general store. The task proved harder than expected. The ground was stubborn, resisting their efforts with every stroke. Hours passed, the sun climbing higher in the sky as sweat dripped from their brows. Just when it seemed they would find nothing, one of the men let out a shout. "I hit something," he exclaimed, his shovel striking against a solid object buried deep beneath the earth. Excitement rippled through the crowd as they redoubled their efforts, clearing away the dirt until a large chest came into view. Its surface was covered in rust and grime, but the craftsmanship was undeniable, a relic of another time, carefully constructed to protect its contents. With trembling hands, Clara reached for the lock, her fingers tracing its edges before attempting to pry it open. To everyone's surprise, the lock gave way easily, as though it had been waiting for this moment all along. Inside, the chest revealed its secrets: stacks of yellowed papers, bundles of letters tied with frayed ribbon, and finally, a collection of photographs that froze the breath in their throats. The images depicted Jeremiah alongside a woman whose face bore an uncanny resemblance to May. In one photo, they stood together with a young girl, Lily, no doubt, smiling brightly despite the harshness of their surroundings. In another, the same woman appeared alone, her eyes filled with sorrow as she clutched a child to her chest. Each picture told a story, weaving together fragments of a life torn apart by tragedy. Clara picked up one of the letters, her hands shaking as she unfolded it. Written in elegant handwriting, the words leapt off the page. "Jeremiah, I cannot continue living under the shadow of your guilt. You blame me for Lily's disappearance, but I know the truth lies elsewhere. If you truly loved us, you would have searched harder, done more to bring her back. Instead, you turned inward, letting anger consume you until there was nothing left but emptiness. Please, Jeremiah, let go of the past. Let go of the pain that binds you, for if you do not, it will destroy everything you hold dear." Signed simply with the initial M, the letter left little doubt about its authorship. This was Jeremiah's late wife, the mother of both Lily and May. And yet, the question remained: how had May ended up in Jeremiah's care, and why had he chosen to imprison her rather than seek help? As the days stretched into weeks, the townsfolk pored over the documents, piecing together the puzzle bit by bit. It became clear that Jeremiah had discovered May shortly after his wife's death, believing her to be connected somehow to Lily's mysterious vanishing. Consumed by grief and paranoia, he convinced himself that keeping May hidden would somehow bring Lily back, or at least ease the unbearable ache in his heart. But then, buried deeper within the chest, they found a final revelation that shook them to their core. A journal entry, dated years after May's imprisonment, revealed Jeremiah's darkest secret. "Today I saw her again. Lily. She came to me in my dreams, her face pale but serene. She told me she is safe, that she has found peace. And yet, I cannot shake the feeling that I am wrong, that I have made a terrible mistake. What if the girl in the cellar is not cursed? What if she is my second chance? My redemption? But it is too late now. I have gone too far. If anyone ever discovers what I have done, they will hate me. They will see only the monster I have become, never the man who once loved deeply enough to lose everything." The entry ended abruptly, leaving behind a chilling silence. Had Jeremiah written this shortly before fleeing the town, or had he carried the weight of his guilt long after abandoning his home? In the end, the truth brought neither closure nor absolution. Jeremiah Cade remained a ghost, haunting the edges of Blackwater's memory. His legacy was one of shadows and unanswered questions, a reminder that even the strongest among us can falter when faced with loss and despair. May, however, chose to look forward rather than backward. With Clara's encouragement, she began writing her own story, not as a victim, but as a survivor. Her words inspired others, reminding them that even in the darkest moments, hope could shine to like the first light of dawn. And old Bessie, she remained a constant presence, her loyalty unwavering. Though she never spoke, her actions spoke louder than any words ever could. For in the end, it wasn't just humans who possessed the capacity for heroism. Sometimes, even the simplest creatures could perform acts of kindness that defied explanation and changed lives forever. Under the vast starlit sky of the Wild West, the tale of the girl locked in the cellar and the pig that saved her endured, a testament to the enduring power of courage, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of humanity. The passage of time brought with it an inevitable shift in the seasons, and as winter descended upon Blackwater, the town donned a mantle of snow that softened its edges and quieted its restless spirits. The air grew crisp, carrying with the faint scent of pine and wood smoke, while the ground beneath became a canvas of white, untouched save for the occasional tracks left by wandering animals. It was during the season of stillness that May found herself drawn to the riverbank once more, her breath visible in the cold air as she stood gazing out over the frozen waters. Clara accompanied her, their footsteps crunching softly against the frost-laden earth. Between them, old Bessie trundled along, her snout occasionally dipping into the snow as though searching for something hidden beneath its surface. For all her intelligence, even the pig seemed uncertain of what lay ahead, her movements slower now, as if weighed down by the weight of memories shared and secrets uncovered. Sometimes, May began, her voice barely audible above the whisper of the wind, I wonder what would have happened if Jeremiah had never found me, if I'd stayed in the barn, or if someone else had come along first. Clara placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. There's no way to know, child. But one thing is certain. You're here now, safe and free, because of choices made by those who cared enough to act. May nodded, though her expression remained thoughtful. Do you think he regrets it? Do you think he ever looked back and wished he could undo what he did? Clara hesitated, choosing her words carefully. Regret is a complicated thing. Some people carry it like a burden, letting it shape every decision they make. Others bury it so deep they can't even recognize it anymore. Jeremiah, well, I suspect his regret was real, but whether it was enough to change him, we'll never truly know. They stood there for a long moment, the silence between them companionable rather than uncomfortable. Above, the sky stretched endlessly, its pale blue hue dotted with wisps of cloud that glimmered faintly in the sunlight. Somewhere far off, a hawk cried, its call slicing through the chill air like a blade. As the days turned into weeks, life in Blackwater settled into a rhythm dictated by the demands of survival in such a harsh climate. What needed to be chopped, fires tended, and provisions gathered against the relentless cold. Yet amidst these practical concerns, there lingered a sense of anticipation, a feeling that something was about to change, though none could say exactly what form that change might take. It came unexpectedly, one evening as the stars began to twinkle like scattered jewels across the heavens. A rider appeared at the edge of town, his silhouette stark against the backdrop of the darkening plains. His horse moved slowly, its gait labored, and when the man dismounted, it became clear that he was injured, perhaps gravely so. The townsfolk gathered cautiously, unsure of his intentions. Few strangers ventured this far west without good reason, and fewer still arrived under such dire circumstances. As Clara stepped forward to address him, the man collapsed, his body hitting the ground with a thud that echoed unervingly in the quiet night. Dr. Harlan was summoned immediately, and together with Clara, he worked to stabilize the stranger. His face was gaunt, his clothes torn and stained with dirt and blood. When he finally stirred hours later, his voice was weak, but steady as he introduced himself. "My name is Thomas Whitaker," he rasped, his eyes flickering open briefly before closing again. "I've been looking for someone who might help me understand what happened." Clara exchanged a glance with Dr. Harlan, both recognizing the urgency in his tone. "Who are you seeking?" she asked gently. "The Cade family," he replied, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Jeremiah Cade, specifically, or anyone who knew him well." A murmur rippled through the room, the name invoking memories both painful and unresolved. Clara knelt beside him, her expression compassionate yet firm. "Jeremiah hasn't been seen since the day we discovered May in his cellar. If you're hoping to find him, I'm afraid you may be disappointed." Thomas shook his head slightly, wincing at the effort. "No, it's not just Jeremiah. It's about Lily, his daughter. She disappeared years ago, didn't she?" At the mention of Lily's name, a hush fell over the gathering. Clara straightened, her mind racing with possibilities. "How do you know about Lily?" she demanded, her voice sharp despite her attempts to keep it level. I saw her," Thomas admitted, his gaze meeting hers with intensity that brooked no doubt. "Or rather, I saw someone who looked exactly like her, in a place where she shouldn't have been. And I think I know why." The revelation sent shockwaves through the community, reigniting old fears and stirring new questions. That night, as the fire crackled in Dr. Harlan's office, Clara May listened intently as Thomas recounted his tale. He spoke of a remote mining camp nestled deep within the mountains, abandoned decades earlier after a catastrophic collapse claimed the lives of nearly everyone working there. Among the ruins, he claimed to have encountered a woman whose resemblance to Lily was uncanny, a woman who spoke cryptically of debts owed and promises broken. "She told me things only someone close to Jeremiah could know," Thomas continued, his voice trembling slightly. "Things about his wife, about May, about the guilt that drove him mad. And then she vanished, just like that, leaving behind nothing but echoes." Clara frowned, her instincts telling her there was more to the story than met the eye. If this woman truly was Lily, or someone pretending to be her, why would she appear now after all these years? What does she hope to achieve? Thomas shrugged helplessly. "That I don't know. All I know is that whatever secret ties Jeremiah to this place, it runs deeper than any of us imagined." Determined to uncover the truth, Clara organized a small expedition to the mining camp, enlisting the aid of Dr. Harlan, May, and even old Bessie, whose instincts had proven invaluable time and again. The journey was arduous, the trail treacherous, but each step brought them closer to answers, and perhaps closure, for wounds long thought unhealable. When they finally reached the site, the remnants of the camp loomed before them like ghosts of another era. Rusting equipment lay scattered across the landscape, half buried beneath layers of snow and debris. Inside the main structure, now little more than a skeleton of its former self, they discovered carvings etched into the walls, messages left by those who had perished, their final thoughts preserved against all odds. But it was among the rubble outside that they made their most startling discovery, a set of footprints leading away from the camp, impossibly fresh despite the remoteness of the location. Following them, they came upon a clearing where a figure stood silhouetted against the moonlight, a figure whose presence defied explanation. "Lily?" May whispered, her voice breaking as recognition dawned. The woman turned, her features illuminated by the pale glow of the night. Her resemblance to the photographs was undeniable, yet something about her seemed different, older perhaps, or simply changed by forces beyond comprehension. "You shouldn't have come," she said softly, her voice tinged with sorrow. "This isn't your fight anymore." "But it is," Clara countered firmly, "because whatever happened here, it shaped everything that followed. It shaped Jeremiah, and May, and even you. We deserve to know the truth." Lily hesitated, her gaze dropping to the ground. Then, finally, she spoke, her words tumbling forth like water released from a dam. "I wasn't lost," she confessed. "Not really. I chose to leave, to escape the pain, the anger, the suffocating expectations. But Jeremiah couldn't accept that. He convinced himself I was taken, cursed, anything but gone willingly. And in doing so, he destroyed himself and everyone around him." Her voice faltered, tears shimmering in her eyes. "I tried to reach him, to show him the error of his ways. But pride kept him blind, and fear kept him silent. By the time I realized how far he'd gone, it was too late." Silence reigned in the clearing, heavy with the weight of revelations long buried. Finally, May stepped forward, her own tears streaming unchecked. "Why didn't you come back? Why didn't you try harder to stop him?" Lily shook her head, her expression filled with regret. "Because I was scared. Scared of what I'd become if I returned. Scared of facing the truth about myself and my family. And now I see how wrong I was. How much damage was done because neither of us had the courage to confront our demons head on." In the days that followed, the group returned to Blackwater, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that some wounds run too deep to ever fully heal. Yet amidst the sorrow, there was also a strange kind of peace, a recognition that understanding, even imperfectly, can sometimes be enough. For May, the encounter with Lily marked the beginning of a new chapter, one in which forgiveness, not forgetting, became the guiding principle. She wrote tirelessly, pouring her experiences onto paper in hopes of helping others navigate their own struggles. And though Jeremiah remained a ghost, haunting the edges of their collective memory, his legacy no longer defined them. Old Bessie, meanwhile, continued to thrive, her presence a constant reminder that even the simplest creatures possess wisdom beyond measure. Together, they face the future, their bond unbroken by the storms of the past. Under the vast, starlit sky of the Wild West, the tale of the girl locked in the cellar and the pig that saved her lived on, a testament to the enduring power of hope, resilience, and the mysterious connections that bind us all